Riprap is, another great consistent place that looks like Grand Lake somewhere or something, maybe, possibly. And it's, riprap banks are awesome places to be consistent. I like to throw a lot of crankbaits down riprap banks. You can also throw a spinnerbait, or you can throw a topwater as well down riprap banks. But riprap banks are a common, consistent place to catch fish. If you're ever pulling up to a lake and you don't know where to start, you start on a riprap bank. Most of the time you're going to catch fish there, because the one thing about riprap bank is same thing like docks. It's going to have algae on the rocks that the shad, the bluegill are going to eat, which means that if there's bait there, there's bass there. Also, there's going to be crawdads that hang around the riprap banks, so the fish are going to eat crawdads. If there's bait there, there might not always be bass, but if there's bass there, I guarantee you that there's some form of bait fish or a crawdad or something very close by, because there's never a place that you're going to find where there's only bass and no bait. There'll be places where you find bait and no bass, but every time you find a bass, there's going to be some bait there. So the first place I'm going to start looking is places that consistently have bait fish, and rocks and riprap banks are probably the most consistent of having all different types. That's one place that you can also start for being consistent. Is you get up on this riprap bank and you start fishing down this riprap bank. Just start looking and watching and seeing, and then you can see if there's shad on that bank. You can see if it's crawdads on that bank, and then you start matching the hatch on what's going on there. I won a tournament on down in Texas, not Amistad, but Louisville, where I fished the riprap dam all day long, pretty much, because we'd never been there before. They drop us in the lake. One thing is the same thing with Major League Fishing. How many guys watch Major League Fishing? You guys like it? Yeah. I throw a few rods, drop a couple F-bombs. That's just me. We all are passionate about our fishing. But one thing about it is anytime we start out on a Major League Fishing, the first place I go to is a riprap bank, because I can dictate very quickly on what type of bait fish there are in there and what I need to be doing. If there's crawdads, then I can throw a crawdad pattern bait. If there's bluegill, then I'm throwing a bluegill pattern bait. If there's shad, I'm throwing a shad pattern bait. So riprap is going to be probably one of the most consistent places you can go just to go out there and catch bass. Grass, you can't go wrong with grass. You go to a lake and it's got grass in it, there's going to be bass in that grass. They live in the grass. Grass for bass is probably the most comfortable place. If they could go drop some hydrilla in Grand Lake, that would take that lake to a completely next level. I'll tell you this, is grass is probably one of the biggest producers of bass in any lake that you go to. Prime example, Lake Guntersville. Lake Guntersville fishes 200 to 300, maybe 400 boats every single day of the week, and on the weekends, 500 to 1,000 boats. And them guys down in Alabama, they like to eat bass. I know you guys up here eat a few too. Don't worry, I know it's okay. Taking a few ain't too bad. But them guys eat bass. And you watch these guys constantly throwing 4 and 5 pounders in their coolers, on stringers, in their live wells, and taking them home. But that lake still keeps producing 100 bass days, because that lake in it is grass from one end to the next end. So grass habitat is an excellent place to find bass for being consistent. Any questions on habitat so far? Am I covering everything? Okay, I like it.
On riprap, how do you...
Good call there, Bill. He went right back to his question.
Do you go typically all the way up to the rocks, or are you trying to fish a few feet off of it, or parallel it? Or...
I start paralleling. For me is I'm gonna get my bait right here up against the rocks and fish shallow, because I feel like when I'm fishing shallow, he has the best place for him to ambush is my bait basically being right up against the riprap. So he's sitting out here, he's gonna swim from a long ways to eat the bait that's up here. If I'm fishing the bait out further, the fish that are on the bank, I don't believe are necessarily gonna swim out to eat that bait out there, because it's harder for them to trap it. They wanna trap that bait up against something. So you get this bait going right down it, the bait's got nowhere to go, so that bass knows that. Once it's there, he's got a better opportunity to eating that bait versus it sitting out here where the bait can either run this way or it can run that way. But up against the bank, he's got nowhere to go, so I like to parallel right up against the riprap.
And the information Bass University provides isn't your basic run-of-the-mill fishing video. This is specific information from A to Z to help you learn, get to the water and become a better angler quickly.